Hello, Positive Philter listeners. So it's me, Philip Wilkerson, coming to you with another bonus episode. So recently, one of my mentees, Brother Darrell Green, asked me to record a podcast with him for his new podcast called The Reckless Hour. And during this conversation, we talked about my career journey, my thoughts on mentorship, my thoughts on impact as an educator. And so I thought this was a really great conversation that I really wanted to share with the listeners. And also, hopefully, we can support my brother, Darrell Green, on the release of his new podcast, The Reckless Hour, hopefully coming out soon. Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. Go. We're recording.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Reckless Hour podcast with DJ Darrell. And today we have a very special guest. I'll let you introduce yourself by the name of Phil Wilkerson.
Yes. Good. Thank you, DJ, for having me on the podcast. My name is Philip Wilkerson. I work at George Mason University. I am an employer engagement consultant at George Mason Career Services. I'm also a Mason alum myself, and I'm a member of the oldest and coldest fraternity. That's how I know the host of this podcast, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. But I'm happy to have this discussion today.
Thank you. I guess to start off, how did we end up meeting? I can't remember. It was I think last year in the springtime.
Yeah. So DJ, you say DJ or DG? DJ. Okay. First of all, this is the first time I call you that. You know, what I'm saying brother Green. You know, so now I'm gonna call you DJ. You know, DJ from now on. But so I believe we met while you were interested in Alpha. The IOTA Alpha chapter here at George Mason University. You expressed interest, and I think someone connected us. I think it was Brother Donald or Tyreek, either one of your prophytes, as they say, one of your older brothers in the fraternity, introduced us. And then you came to my office, and I just asked you about your interest in Alpha, and you shared a little bit about your background, and then I believe you went through the process and actually crossed that year. Last spring, you crossed with you and Josh. But I think our first conversation, honestly, was in person when you came to visit me in my office at Career Services.
Yeah, I remember. That was spring of 22.
Yes.
And then we talked, like you said, in the office in person. That was the first time I ever really met somebody outside of the chapter. And honestly, didn't even know you had worked on campus at first.
Yeah.
It was a mix-up at the time because I remember they said talk to Phil. So I'm assuming it was Phil Wilkerson that you needed to sign off on the document or something, but it's actually Phil McDaniel, the
yes.
So it was a miscommunication, but it ended up working out. As you see, we're here now. But I'm a year in at this point. Is it 5 or 6 years?
6 years. I just celebrated my Alphaversary about a week ago. November 5th, I believe. So I crossed alumni chapter, Theta Rho Lambda, which is in Arlington and Alexandria. So for those that are listening to this podcast, if you're interested in Black fraternities or Black Greek life, you can pursue Alpha both as an undergrad like DJ did, but also you can do it in the community. And so I did it through the community chapter, Arlington Alexandria's chapter, Theta Rho Lambda, in fall 17. So 6 years in, it's been a great process. One of the things that I found the most valuable about my time in Alpha is the opportunity to mentor and engage young people like yourself. I believe I've been a faculty advisor for IOTA Alpha since 19. Yeah, I think it was summer 19 that I got. So 2 years into being an Alpha that I got connected to the actual chapter here at George Mason through a boom Eagle Lam, who asked me to be the faculty advisor that summer of 19. So that has been my greatest pleasure within the fraternity, is seeing all the young leaders come out, being really connected, honestly, with all the different presidents. I can even go down a boom. Then I believe it was Abel, then Abel to Toby. No. Sorry. No, it was Aboom, Abel, Chris Donald, Toby, and then you. I think that's my president list in regards to being connected, as a faculty advisor and really mentoring and staying engaged, particularly, obviously the whole chapter, but mostly the president and supporting them in their, academics and as well as their, their well-being at Mason. I think that's my biggest. I'm not the fraternity advisor. I'm the faculty advisor, so I'm more of a liaison to the George Mason community. So I just want to make sure that the young men feel safe and included and supported at George Mason. That's my main responsibility.
We definitely appreciate you. On that note, you've highlighted what has been a kind of benefiting factor to you crossing Alpha and working at George Mason. But what do you feel like is the most rewarding part besides mentorship and kind of getting to fraternizing brothers?
Yeah. I mean, I think, a lot about, Alpha is like developing leaders, and I think concurrently, while I have an opportunity to develop leaders and young people as a mentor, I've also had an opportunity to develop myself as a leader. And so I think that's probably been my, the two-edge part, right? I've received as well as give, I've given as much as I've received, and in my own personal development, being connected to mentors for me and finding men that are above me, within Alpha, but also within their their normal careers to mentor me. I've been really connected to a lot of brothers in higher education that have, pushed me. I don't think I would have been interested in pursuing a PhD in communication if it wasn't for, older brothers that are, educated brothers that have PhDs themselves. So I think one of the best benefit, is kind of that give and you receive, is that the opportunities to mentor others. I've been mentored and guided, and I think that's been like the biggest value add for my membership, is that when I joined in 17, I was navigating my own career. I've already was working in higher ed for about 5 years or so. For about 5 years alone. But Alpha didn't make me a better person. It just enhanced who I was already, and enhanced me in a sense that I was able to really hone the pre-existing, skills that I had in communication and leadership and public speaking, and through the opportunities to do that through actual roles and leadership roles within my chapter or at large in Virginia, VACAPAF. I think that's been the greatest value add, is it's actually helped me grow into my leadership as well as be able to support the leadership journeys of young people too. So it's kind of like I'm in the middle. I feel like I'm still learning and growing myself. I haven't got to where it is or got to the final destination of my career or being accomplished and all that. But it's so interesting that like while I'm pursuing my journey, I'm able to, give back and help those, that are not say underneath me, but, those coming up after me. So I think that's the best blessing for the fraternity for me, just feeling connected to that, feeling connected to other leaders and being able to learn myself and inspire those. So it's kind of like, I'm in the middle of that, and I really appreciate that.
Definitely sounds like good benefits to joining and crossing. I kind of want to highlight, you mentioned being in higher education. Dive into that a little bit. What's been kind of the highs, the lows, some of the good trade-offs, some things that you would like to kind of refine, or things that you see that need work?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I think my whole career has been in higher ed, and if you speak to anyone that works in higher ed, most people don't actually like dream or think about that's what they want to go, right? You kind of fall into it. So it's a very accidental career, right? Like a lot of people that you talk to were working, going back to school, and then they go to grad school. And then while in grad school, they get involved on campus, and then they stay, right? And so that's kind of how my journey started, right? I went to George Mason myself to get a counseling degree. And then while I was getting my counseling degree, we had to do a mandatory internship. And I, coincidentally did my internship at Career Services where I work now. And so my last year of my grad school program, I had a full year internship at Career Services and graduated in 2012. And that was where the light bulb went off. Like, I like working on a college campus. I like working and helping people. And that was just kind of where I wanted to stay. And I think the greatest benefits of working on a college campus is that you're just in an environment of learning. You can continue to learn yourself. You can go back to school yourself. You can get developed, and if you're one of those people that are lifelong learners, I think there's no other space to be a lifelong learner than working at a college, right? Like it's an educational space. I think some of the drawbacks to higher ed, though, is that it's not lucrative. I'll tell you that right now. We don't get paid a lot. And I think if you go around the survey of people at Mason, they even took a Gallup survey. They said that they love their job. They feel involved. They feel included. They feel passionate about what they do, but they feel like they can get paid more, right? Like educators don't get paid a lot. I think that's one. And two, I think somewhat in higher ed, the trajectory for leadership or the pathway to grow or elevate in titles is not as open or as structured as other places. So like, for instance, if you're in the military and you do well, there's an expectation that you're just going to get promoted, right? Like there's a ladder. You do well, you get, you go E6, they have a grade, right? A pay, like E5, E6, E7. And there's an automatic structure in there that like, if you do well, you're going to get promoted. But there's no like direct pipeline like that in higher ed, right? Like if someone's the director of an office, then they're going to be the director, and then the people underneath them are just going to be underneath them, right? There's no, straight trajectory for leadership as much in education as there is in other sectors, right? So I know some people, whether it's myself and others, sometimes feel stuck, right? They love what they do. They love what they do, but the ladder to grow is not as defined as other industries, as well as not the pay, right? Like there's no automatic, like if you do well, you're going to get paid more each year, and so I feel like that's a lot of struggles. A lot of people during the Great Resignation were like, I'm going to go to another sector. And we saw a lot of higher ed professionals leaving, higher ed period, and just mass droves, like I could think of so many colleagues that have left. And so that's just kind of the pros and cons of higher ed. Now for me, I weighed my options, and, for me, we can make it work financially. I'm very happy, and I think that my well-being in regards to feeling included on campus and feeling like I have belonging, I feel like I know what I'm doing at my work, that's enough to sustain me. And so I'm very happy, but I know that sometimes there's that like, man, I wish I could make, $10,000 more dollars or $20,000 more dollars just for these bills and the cost of living in the Northern Virginia area. So I think that's the pros and cons of working in higher ed for sure.
I definitely can understand some of that. Even on kind of secondary school with high school and everything, I know pay was a significant issue, but also a few of my favorite teachers kind of started to become a little bit more, not apathetic, but a little bit more burned out.
Yeah, burnout. Yeah.
The student engagement had dropped significantly. And I remember one teacher from my high school in Richmond, as soon as I graduated and went to college, she was like, it's not the same trying to teach and coach the kids now because they're not as receptive. They don't want to do things. And I remember that was one of the only teachers that ever called me dumb and then me kind of get my act together. And it happened because I was doing well in the class, did my homework and everything for X amount of months. And I just got to a point where I stopped caring. And it was probably like a couple days consecutively, I didn't do my homework. And she was like, stop being dumb and do your homework. And I was like, she just called me dumb. And it took a minute to realize, like, she wasn't doing that as an insult. She was saying, you're kind of performing less than you've been performing. Pick it up. And it inspired me. And it's a relationship that's cultivated. I go back and visit periodically when I'm in Richmond. So it's definitely nice to have people in secondary school and higher education like yourself, like that teacher in particular. If she hears this, she'll know who she is. But it's nice to have people like you all that genuinely do care and put everything beside themselves and kind of realize that I have other people's lives to touch, other people's lives to influence and teach. And we definitely appreciate all the effort you guys give. Along the lines of kind of like coaching and teaching, we also know that you're a father of 2 as well. Tell us what that's like. I know fatherhood is not an easy trope. So
No. I mean, well, shout out to that teacher. And I think that's, if you ask educators too, like I think, like I said, for the pay or burnout, I think that hearing stories like that, that's like juice, right? Like, I bet, if she hears this or whoever that teacher is, that's going to give her like one more year of teaching, right? Like, in a sense that's the fuel that you need, right? Like I do feel validated and encouraged to keep going through my relationships with students. When people pop up on me years later, say, Philip, you helped me, all those things, those are really good driving factors that keep me going. And so like, I think it's really what it comes down to is like what gives you purpose and what makes you feel fulfilled. And sometimes it's not, for some people, it's not money. It's like, all I need to get juiced up is just hearing that I help people and I have a direct impact, and I can use that juice to fuel me on days when I feel like this is not worth it or I'm tired or whatever. But in a sense, to boys, having 2 boys, I mean, I think, I'd say fatherhood is the hardest job ever. Also most rewarding. And that sounds cliche, but it's very true. The cliche part about it or fatherhood is like that you feel like as a father, I have in my life 2 people that are like directly related to me forever. It's kind of a funny joke. Not a joke, but like I can say this, right? Like, if I got a tattoo of my wife and she left me, right? That title of my wife, that's gone, right? She's not my wife no more. But technically, even if I was a deadbeat dad or not involved or, just not around, no matter what, I'm always going to be those boys' father, right? By DNA. Like we are connected. We are bonded forever. You know what I'm saying? And so I say that with a sense of saying like, now I have a direct connection to another generation. All those things of aspect of mentoring and developing leaders. I have that opportunity in my own home to do that. I have something that, I think the greatest aspect of being a father is that you have an opportunity to, grow your legacy. And not in a narcissistic way, but like in a way like no matter what, I have 2 human beings that are going to go out the world that are always connected to me, for good or worse. And, they can do things better than me. And that's really inspiring too. Like I look at my sons and I'm like, wow, they're way more handsome than me. They're way more gifted, than I ever was. It's like they feel like they get the worst and the best of me, right? Like they, all my traits are magnified. All my positive traits are magnified through them. All my flaws are magnified through them as well. But for me, I can see my boys and like sometimes close my eyes and picture an imaginary future for them. And it makes me very inspired. Like they have all the things I want to do, they can do. All the things I wish I could have done, they can do. And that's really inspiring, like whether it's athletics or math or school. I mean, they're just so talented, but on the opposite end, it's like, it's legit. Like it's hard, like you're no longer just yourself, right? You are responsible for 2 human beings forever, right? You can't just pick up and go on trips, or you just can't, go out like you want to, or do things. Like you are responsible for human beings. And that's a big responsibility, that for those that want to be involved and engaged, you take very seriously, right? You're also, while you're inspired and think about how those kids are going to grow up, you're always worried about them. You know, no matter what, you're always going to be worried if they're okay or if they're safe or they're you know, doing the right things. You know, and I think particularly for me, you know, while my sons are biracial, I'll say right now I consider them black boys, right? And so like I'm always worried about how the world's gonna, you know, perceive them, or are they gonna be safe, or are they gonna be given equal access to things and all the things that, you know, come along with being black in America. Those are things I worry about even more. I worried about it more when I was a father than I was when I was by myself. You know, like I worry about like their safety and their inclusion and all that stuff. So it's like it's a very, very rewarding experience to be a father. It's probably one of my most rewarding experiences, but it's also probably one of the most challenging experiences. It's not easy, you know. It's not for the faint of heart. And I've always said this to people, you know, there's a difference between being a daddy and a father, and in the sense that, you know, you like you said, you can have children with anyone and be a daddy, but to really be involved and ingrained in their life and make sure that they turn out as good men, that's a father. And, you know, positively for me, I have a great father right now. Well, have my father right now was a great example of a man for me, my dad. And then my father-in-law, he was a great example of a man from me, for my you know, how I saw how he raised his daughters and stuff. So I have good examples all around me that give me, you know, hope and motivation to be, you know, half as good as them. But it is very challenging, and there's a lot of times where I feel like I'm, you know, similar to feeling good about yourself is also a mirror. Like it does magnify, like if you're, you know, not feeling good about yourself, are you doing the right things? Are you teaching them the right things? Are they going to turn out okay? Are they going to, you know, be good young men when they grow up? Are they going to be ready for the world, you know, when they go to college and stuff like that? Those are random thoughts that I think a lot of dads have, you know, in their mind. Like, are they doing the right things? And I think a lot of dads can, you know, who are listening to this could understand that those random thoughts that you have about them being okay. I think that's, you know, I ain't gonna lie though, moms worry way worse though. I think moms worry about like everything. Dads be worried about like big macro things. Moms be worried about like legit day to day. So shout out to the moms out there too. But, you know, that's fatherhood in a nutshell.
I get that. Like, I'm not even a father yet, and I still kind of think about some of those things. Number one, the biggest thing that you said that I relate with is the reflection piece. Like, sometimes I forget to eat now, and I'm like, I can't do that if I have kids. Like, if I forget to eat, that'll mean it'll trickle down to them, which means they won't get food, and it's like your sole job as a parent / father is to provide. So it's like, if I can't provide for myself, how can I provide for my kids? But then also just the fact of like, there's some traits that I might not want to pass down, and I'm, I guess, kind of worried, like, oh crap, that might get like genetically or physically passed down. And stuff that I'm trying to like harp out now. But I definitely know as men we get to be too wrapped up in our heads a lot, and it's kind of like we live in it, and it's difficult to get out of our heads. But I think a lot of times, and I recently just had this conversation with my mom, we don't give ourselves enough credit, and we tend to lack the grace that we give to others when we give it to ourselves. And that's a experience I'm learning a lot, especially through therapy, which I'm pretty open about telling people I do participate in therapy because it helps me. I've grown a lot from, I think, the 2 to 3 years now that I've been doing it. But my therapist was like, oh man, you used to be so negative, and now to be able to listen to you and you're a lot more authentically positive, it helps a lot. And changing your mindset / environment is probably one of the best ways to kind of get out of your head, but then also learn you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah.
For humans, we all get equipped with a certain set of tools. Some tools we may never pick up. Some tools we kind of learn later in life, but we're doing the best that we can, and that's all anybody can ask for. And I know, I feel like your sons now are in a very good spot because they have a great father as a role model, but then also the amount of people that you surround them with. I know you don't hang with like a knucklehead crowd or anything like that.
I'm too old for that, man. I'm too burnt. I got no time, man. One is that you're right. Like I think that's another thing about alpha that in general, or just in general, like my professional spaces, the men that I call friends are good men. You know, not just through alpha, but even like my high school friends. You know, I can give, you know, it's, you know, peer to peer pressure. Like all my good friends are good fathers. I literally can go down the list and say, yo, they're doing it right. Like, if I had some guys that are in my circle that were deadbeat dads, you know what I'm saying? Like, we would get on them, right? We were like, yo, bro, that's not how you get it together. You know, even friends of mine that have divorces and stuff, and they go through divorce, they're still involved in their children. That's a literally number one role in their life. They're like, I want to be a good father. And I like what you just said about working on yourself now through therapy. You know, like I said, I'm a counseling master. For me to, you know, be about counseling, I had to put my own oxygen mask on. So I've gone to therapy and all that stuff myself. And I will say this too, like the work never stops. The work on yourself never stops. But additionally, I'll tell you right now, you have to work on yourself now because the work on yourself is harder when you become a dad. I'm telling you that right now. I told someone the other day that being a father magnifies your positive, but it also exacerbates your negative. So if you're already insecure about, you know, like, I'm not good enough. Well, if you're a dad, it's going to be that voice is louder. If I don't, you know, I'm not successful or something like that. I don't know. I was even saying within a marriage too, like if you fight about money, when you have kids, you fight about money more. Like, so kids are just literally, for me, I tell all my friends before you have kids, work on yourself, work on your relationship, because kids are large mirrors. They literally expose you. Kids expose, and it's almost like turning a mirror on yourself. And I've learned that through fatherhood, right? I think it's made me a better man because I had to, through being a father, I had to face the things that I were, you know, not confident about or insecure about. But also, you know, it did give me a jump start in my career. Like I was kind of floating, became a dad. I'm like, yo, I got to get more serious. And I like what you said too, like, and figuratively, like, I got to eat. Eat could be like, I got to get more money, right? Financially eat. Because if I don't financially eat, my kids don't financially eat. And so that same mindset, you know, food, whatever, like you have to take care of yourself, because now if you don't take care of yourself, then you have two young people, or me, in my case, you have two young people that rely on you. So how are they going to rely on you if you're not well? So kids exacerbate that. So I'm glad you're doing the work right now. You're doing the process, whether you have kids or not. I think, you know, as you get older, taking care of yourself is not selfish. Taking care of yourself, therapy, well-being, all those things, taking care of yourself allows you to take care of others, whether it's your friends, relationships, or whatever. So like if you don't put on your own oxygen mask or take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of other people. And so don't ever think of that as selfish. Don't ever think of that like going to therapy is, no, that's part of your well-being toolkit, so that you can take care of yourself and then show up the best that you can for others too. So keep on doing that good work for yourself.
Definitely will. I'll kind of keep you updated how the journey goes. But it's definitely been a good talk, and we'll have to dive deeper into things. As I'm starting my podcast journey, you've definitely kind of been in the game for a while. So I look forward to a different branch of mentorship coming from you. But I guess, do you want to have any parting words, anything to let our listeners kind of marinate with before we come to a close here?
Yeah, this is a great discussion, DJ. A few things. Well, one thing is I'm proud of you for starting this podcast and keep it up. One thing I always encourage people to do is don't have paralysis analysis. Don't, be paralyzed by perfection. If you have something that you want to start, like a book or a podcast or anything, just get started. That's step one. Because you can keep on giving excuses that you're not ready to start. No one's ever ready to start anything. So just get to it. Don't wait to create. I coined that a lot. Like, don't wait to create. Get out there and start making it happen, and use the resources you can. If you want to write a book, but you don't have, a publishing company, write a book and post it on Amazon or something like that. If you want to start a podcast and you don't have all the fancy equipment, use your cell phone. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever, find a way to create and get started regardless of where you are. So that's number one. And number two is, as I think that kind of ties into this, I'll just reiterate again, right? If you want to develop leaders and you want to mentor other people, then do the same things for yourself. So if you want to mentor others, find a mentor for you. If you want to enhance the leadership skills of others, enhance your own leadership, right? You have to concurrently do the things. If you want to be a teacher or educator, make sure that you're a lifelong learner and educating yourself. So everything that you want to give to others, you have to make sure that you give to yourself, because you can't give from an empty cup. You can't give knowledge if you're not seeking knowledge, right? Like I can't be wise and teach other people if I'm not pursuing wisdom and knowledge myself. So, for all those that are listening out there, think about the things that you want to do, like the impact that you want to have in the world, and think about how can I do the things that I want to do for the world, but I'm making sure that I'm doing it for myself, because I can't give to the world if I can't give to myself. So those are my parting words, and thank you so much for this opportunity to be on your podcast, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Appreciate it. Any advice later down the road that you have, I'm all ears and receptive to it. But that's all the time we have today. If you're listening, please give a round of applause to Brother Phil Wilkerson, one of the first few guests on the Reckless Hour podcast with DJ Darrell. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.